The text came at 9:47 p.m. while I was spinning in my wedding dress, laughing with my husband. My phone buzzed on the table next to the cake we hadn't cut yet. I almost didn't look. But something made me glance down. You cost us millions today. You're fired. Consider it my wedding gift. Dorian, the music kept playing, people kept dancing, but my world stopped. My name is Amara Quinlan. Well, now it's Amara Donovan. I just married the love of my life, Kale, 3 hours ago. But right now I'm staring at a text that just destroyed everything I worked for. Let me back up. Because what happened next was so crazy, nobody would believe it if I made it up. I started at Crowden and Holt Designs when I was 22, fresh out of college, broke, wearing the same 3 outfits every week. The company made custom designs for big hotels and restaurants all over Portland, Oregon. Alistair Crowden, the owner, was tough but fair.
He saw something in me. Maybe it was how I stayed late every night.
Maybe it was how I treated every project like it was my own business. Amara, he told me once, you have fire. Don't let anyone put it out. For 8 years I poured everything into that company. I missed birthdays. I worked weekends. I turned tiny projects into million-dollar contracts. Other employees started coming to me for help instead of going to management, Alistair noticed. He started giving me bigger projects, better clients, more responsibility. You're the future of this company, he said last year. I see myself in you. I felt proud. I felt like I belonged somewhere. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. But then everything changed. 6 months ago, Alistair's son Dorian came back to Portland. He'd been living in New York, trying to make it as an artist. It didn't work out. Dorian was 28, my age exactly. But where I had worked my way up, he expected everything handed to him. I'm going to learn the business from the ground up, he announced on his first day. But he didn't want to learn. He wanted to prove he was better than everyone else. Especially me. I tried to be nice. I showed him how our systems worked. I introduced him to clients. I covered for him when he made mistakes. But Dorian saw my help as an insult. And every time Alistair praised my work, Dorian's face would turn red. Why don't you learn from Amara? Alistair would say. She knows this business inside and out. If you want to run this company someday, Alistair told him once, watch how she handles clients. Watch how she solves problems. I could see the hatred growing in Dorian's eyes every time his father said my name. 3 weeks ago, I'd put in my request for wedding leave, 10 days off. I'd planned this wedding for a year. Kale and I were finally ready to start our life together. Alistair approved it immediately. Take 2 weeks if you need it, he said. You've earned it. Dorian was standing right there when his father said that. His jaw got tight. Must be nice, Dorian muttered. Getting special treatment. I ignored him. I'd learned to ignore a lot of things Dorian said, but I should have paid attention. Because Dorian was planning something. The week before my wedding, Alistair flew to London for a big conference. He'd be gone for 10 days. Perfect timing, he said. I'd be on my honeymoon, he'd be at his conference, and Dorian could handle things at the office. Don't burn the place down, Alistair joked to his son before leaving. I should have known that joke would hit too close to home. My wedding day was perfect, sunny but not too hot. The flowers looked amazing, my dress fit like a dream. Kale cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. We had 150 people there, my whole family. Kale's family, friends from college, even some co-workers from Crowden and Holt came to celebrate, but not Dorian. He said he had to work. The ceremony was beautiful. The reception was even better. We ate, we danced, we laughed until our faces hurt. I felt like the happiest woman alive. At 9:30, Kale and I did our first dance to At Last by Etta James. I felt like I was floating. This was it. This was my perfect moment. Then my phone buzzed. You cost us millions today. You're fired. Consider it my wedding gift. Dorian, my hands started shaking. Kale was still holding me, still swaying to the music. What's wrong? He asked. You look like you saw a ghost. I showed him the text. His face went from confused to angry in 2 seconds. What is he talking about? Kale said. You're on vacation. You're at your own wedding. I had no idea. But my phone buzzed again. Magnus Vera was here for the biggest deal in company history. Where were you? All right, dancing while the company burned. Dad will hear about this when he gets back. Don't bother coming in Monday. Magnus Vera, the biggest investor in Portland. I'd been working on a deal with him for 6 months. But the meeting wasn't supposed to be until next week. I had it in my calendar, unless ... my blood went cold. I opened my work email on my phone. There it was. A meeting invitation sent yesterday, for today while I was getting married. But I never got the email. It went straight to my spam folder. Dorian had scheduled the most important meeting in company history on my wedding day, and he made sure I wouldn't see it. I started hyperventilating. My perfect wedding dress suddenly felt like a prison. The music was too loud. The lights were too bright. I have to go, I told Kale. I have to fix this. Amara, no, he said. It's our wedding night. Whatever this is, it can wait. But it couldn't wait. 8 years of work. 8 years of proving myself. Gone because of one missed meeting. I ran to the bathroom and called the office. No answer. I called Dorian's cell phone. He picked up on the first ring. Well, he said. The bride calls. How's married life? Dorian, what happened today? Why didn't you tell me about the Magnus meeting? I sent you an email, he said, and I could hear him smiling. Not my fault you don't check your messages. You know I'm on my wedding leave. You know I've been planning this for a year, and you know business comes first. At least it should if you want to work here. My voice cracked. Please.
Can we reschedule? I can call Magnus first thing Monday.
I can fix this. Too late. Magnus was insulted.
He said if Crowden and Holt can't even show up for meetings, he'll take his money somewhere else.
He's already signed with Morrison Group. Morrison Group, our biggest competitor.
The deal Dorian just lost was worth $5 million.
Dad's
going to be so disappointed, Dorian continued. His perfect employee couldn't even prioritize the company on the most important day of the year. I was crying now, in my wedding dress. In the bathroom at my own reception. I gave 8 years to this company, I whispered. And you threw it all away for one party, Dorian said. Don't come in Monday. I'll have security pack your things. He hung up. I sat on the bathroom floor in my wedding dress and sobbed. 8 years gone, because I dared to get married. Kale found me there 20 minutes later. Honey, what's happening? I told him everything. The setup, the meeting, the lost deal. How Dorian had planned this perfectly.
He can't fire you, Kale said. You don't work for him. You work for his father.
But his father isn't here. And when he comes back, all he'll see is that I cost the company $5 million on my wedding day. We went back to the reception, but I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't smile or dance or cut the cake. My dreams were crashing down around me while everyone else celebrated. At midnight, we went back to our hotel room. Our wedding night was supposed to be magical. Instead, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering how I was going to pay my rent. The next morning, I couldn't help myself. I drove to the office. Maybe I could salvage something. Maybe Magnus would take my call. But when I got there, something was wrong. The parking lot was almost empty. It was Saturday, but there should have been someone there. I used my key card to get in. It still worked. Dorian probably forgot to deactivate it. The office was a mess. Papers everywhere. Empty pizza boxes. It looked like there'd been a party. I checked the conference room where the Magnus meeting should have happened. It was spotless. No signs of any meeting. That's when I saw it. Dorian's computer was still on. And there on his screen was his email inbox. I shouldn't have looked. But something made me click on his sent folder. What I found made my stomach drop. There was the email to Magnus Vera, but it wasn't sent yesterday. It was sent this morning. At 2 a.m., the timestamp showed when Dorian had rescheduled the meeting to my wedding day. But he'd sent it after the meeting was supposed to happen. I scrolled through more emails. There were messages to Morrison Group, dated 3 days ago. Dorian had been negotiating with them all week. He'd given them inside information about our bid. He'd sold us out, then he'd set me up to take the blame. I was screenshotting everything when my phone rang. Unknown international number. Hello? Amara, thank God, it's Alistair. My heart stopped. Mr. Crowden, I can explain. Explain what? Why my son is an idiot. I already know that. I was confused. Sir? I just got off the phone with Magnus Vera. He called me directly in London. Apparently, my son tried to sell him a completely different design package than what you and I agreed on. Magnus was so confused he called me to make sure we hadn't lost our minds. My brain was spinning. But Dorian said Magnus was angry I missed the meeting. What meeting? Magnus has been in Tokyo all week. He's not back until Monday. We've had this meeting scheduled for Wednesday for 6 months. It's in both our calendars. I started laughing. Not happy laughing, hysterical laughing. Amara, are you all right? Mr. Crowden, your son fired me yesterday, on my wedding day. He said I cost the company millions by missing the Magnus meeting. The silence on the other end lasted forever. When Alistair spoke again, his voice was ice cold. He did what? I told Alistair everything, the fake meeting, the email sent to my spam folder, the text during my wedding, how Dorian had planned it all. Then I told him about what I found on Dorian's computer, the real emails, the deal with Morrison Group, how his own son had betrayed the company. Send me screenshots of everything, Alistair said. Every email, every message, right now. I did. Within minutes, my phone rang again. Amara, I am so sorry. This is unforgivable. On your wedding day, no less. Mr. Crowden, I just want you to know I would never stop. I know exactly who you are and what you've given to this company. I also know exactly who my son is. I've been fooling myself, thinking he changed. Alistair's voice was shaking with anger. I'm flying back tonight. Don't come in Monday. I'll handle this personally. Am I still fired? Amara, you were never fired. My son has no authority to fire anyone. He barely has authority to order office supplies. I started crying again. But this time, they were tears of relief. Take your honeymoon, Alistair said. When you get back, we need to talk about your future and my son's lack of one. Cale and I went on our honeymoon to Hawaii. For 7 days, I tried to forget about work and focus on being a newlywed. But I kept thinking about what would happen when I got back. What Alistair would do. What Dorian would say. I found out the morning we landed in Portland. Alistair had called an emergency company meeting. Every employee was required to attend. When I walked into the conference room, Dorian was sitting. At the far end of the table, he looked sick. Welcome back, Amara, Alistair said. How was your honeymoon? Wonderful, sir. Thank you. Dorian wouldn't look at me. He was staring at his hands like they might disappear. Everyone, Alistair said, I want to address some rumors that may be going around about changes in leadership and recent personnel decisions. The room was dead quiet. Last week, while I was in London, there was some confusion about a client meeting. Some of you may have heard that Amara was fired for missing this meeting. I could feel everyone looking at me. Let me be very clear. Amara was not fired. She could not be fired. Because there was no meeting to miss. Alistair turned to look at his son. The meeting in question was fabricated. The client was never contacted. The supposed lost contract never existed. This was all part of an elaborate and cruel prank designed to humiliate one of our best employees on her wedding day. Dorian finally looked up. His face was red and his eyes were watery. Furthermore, Alistair continued, while investigating. This fake meeting, I discovered that sensitive company information was shared with competitors. Actual contracts were lost. Real damage was done to this company's reputation. Now everyone was looking at Dorian. Effective immediately, Dorian Crowden is no longer employed by Crowden and Holt Designs. He will not be returning to this office. Ever. The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. As for Amara, Alistair said, and I held my breath. She's being promoted to Senior Vice President of Client Relations. She will now oversee all major accounts and will report directly to me. My coworkers started clapping. Slow at first, then louder. I felt like I might faint. Dorian stood up from his chair. Dad, you can't sit down. Dorian sat. You will. Clean out your desk today. Security will escort you out. You will not contact any of our clients. You will not contact any of our employees. If you need money, get a job like everyone else. Dorian looked around the room. Everyone was staring at him. The golden boy who'd never had to work for anything was being humiliated in front of the people he'd looked down on. This isn't fair, he whispered. Fair? Alistair's voice rose. You think what you did to Amara was fair? You think destroying someone's career on their wedding day is fair? I felt bad for Dorian, for about 2 seconds. Then I remembered crying in my wedding dress. The meeting is over, Alistair said. Everyone back to work, except you, Dorian. And you, Amara, stay behind. When the room emptied, it was just me, Alistair, and Dorian. Son, I need you to understand something, Alistair said. What you did wasn't just cruel. It was stupid. Amara has brought this company more business in 5 years than most employees. Bring in their entire careers. Dorian was crying now. Actually crying. I was jealous, he whispered. Everyone always compared me to her. You always held her up as the perfect employee. Because she is, Alistair said simply. She works harder than anyone I've ever met. She cares about this company like it's her own. Those aren't qualities to be jealous of. Those are qualities to learn from. Alistair turned to me. Amara, I owe you an apology. Not just for what happened, but for not seeing this coming. I should have known my son wasn't ready for any real responsibility. Mr. Crowden, Alistair. From now on, call me Alistair. We're partners now, partners. The word hit me like lightning. I want you to know, Alistair continued, that Magnus Vera was so impressed with your work that he's increasing his contract by 30%. He specifically asked that you handle everything. Personally, I started crying again. Happy tears this time. Dorian looked at me with something that might have been respect, or maybe just defeat. I'm sorry, Amara, he said quietly. What I did was unforgivable. I looked at this man who had tried to destroy my life, who had planned my humiliation, down to the last detail. You're right, I said. It was unforgivable, but I forgive you anyway. Dorian nodded and walked out of the room. I never saw him again. That was 6 months ago. My life has changed in ways I never imagined. I have my own office now, with a window and a door that closes. I make more money than I ever dreamed of. I get to travel for work. I'm building something real. But the best part isn't the money or the title. It's the respect. When I walk into a room, people listen. When I have an idea, people pay attention. When I make a decision, people follow it. Last week, Alistair called me into his office. I've been thinking about retirement, he said. Maybe in 5 years or so. My heart started racing. When I do, I'll need someone to take over the company. Someone who knows it inside and out. Someone who cares about it as much as I do. He was looking right at me. Someone who's already proven they can handle whatever gets thrown at them. Alistair, are you saying? I'm saying start thinking about it. Crowden and Holt could become Holt and Donovan Designs someday. Has a nice ring to it, don't you think? I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. The girl who started 8 years ago making copies and fetching coffee might someday own half of this company. On our first anniversary, Cale and I went back to the same venue where we got married. We renewed our vows. Just a small ceremony with close family and friends. But this time, my phone stayed in the car. This time, nothing was going to interrupt our day. During the reception, I got a card that made me laugh out loud. It was from Magnus Vera, to Amara, it read. Thank you for being the kind of person who proves that hard work and integrity still matter. The design world is lucky to have you. P.S. I heard about what happened at your first wedding. I'm glad the story had a happy ending. Inside the card was a check. A bonus for the extra work I'd done on his Portland hotel project. More money than I'd ever seen in one place. But more than that, it was proof. Proof that doing the right thing matters. Proof that working hard pays off. Proof that sometimes karma comes through in ways you never expect. As I danced with my husband under the same stars where I'd gotten that horrible text 1 year ago, I thought about Dorian. I wondered where he was, what he was doing. If he'd learned anything, I hoped he had. I hoped he'd found a way to build something real without tearing other people down. But mostly, I was just grateful. Grateful that his attempt to destroy me had actually made me stronger. Grateful that his father saw through the lies. Grateful that the worst day of my career had become the first day of my real success. 2 months after our anniversary, I got a package at work. No return address. Inside was a newspaper clipping and a handwritten note. The clipping was from a Portland business magazine. Local design firm wins national award. There was a picture of me accepting the award for innovative hotel design. The note was short. I saw this and thought you should know. I'm proud of what you've built. I'm sorry for what I tried to take away. D. Dorian. After all this time, he'd reached out. I sat in my office, holding the note, thinking about everything that had happened. The girl who used to make copies was now running million-dollar projects. The woman who got fired on her wedding day was now being groomed to own the company. I kept the note. Not because I missed him or forgave him completely, but because it reminded me of something important. People can change. Situations can change. The person who tries to destroy you today might be the person cheering for you tomorrow. But more importantly, the only person who can truly control your story is you. I found out later that Dorian moved to Seattle. He started his own small design business. Nothing fancy, nothing huge. But he was building it himself, with his own hands and his own sweat. Alistair told me he was proud of his son for the first time in years. He's finally learning what you've always known, he said. Success means something when you earn it yourself. Magnus Vera became more than just a client. He became a mentor. He taught me about international business, about scaling up, about thinking bigger than just Portland. You have the mind for this, he told me during one of our meetings. Don't limit yourself to one city. Think global. Cale got promoted at his job too. He jokes that marrying me was the best career move he ever made, but I know the truth. He was always going to succeed. He just needed someone who believed in him the way he believed in me. My old coworkers still come to me for advice. But now it's different. They don't just ask about work stuff. They ask about life stuff, about standing up for yourself, about knowing your worth. How did you do it? They ask, how did you bounce back from something like that? Here's what. I learned from the worst day of my life becoming the best thing that ever happened to me. Sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what you're really made of. When Dorian fired me on my wedding day, I thought my world was ending. But it wasn't ending, it was just beginning. All those years I spent trying to prove I belonged, trying to show I was worthy, trying to earn my place. I already had all those things. I just didn't know it yet. The moment I stopped begging for respect and started demanding it, everything changed. The moment I realized that my value didn't depend on other people's opinions, I became unstoppable. These days, when young employees come to me for advice, I tell them what Alistair told me all those years ago. You have fire. Don't let anyone put it out. But I add something else. And if someone tries to put it out, use their attempt to make your fire burn brighter. I tell them about boundaries, about knowing when to fight and when to walk away, about the difference between being loyal and being a doormat. I tell them that success isn't just about working hard. It's about working smart. It's about knowing your worth and not accepting anything less. Most importantly, I tell them this: the people who try to keep you down are usually the people who are threatened by how high you can rise. Don't let their fear limit your future. The real victory wasn't getting promoted. It wasn't getting the corner office or the bigger paycheck. The real victory was learning to fight for myself. What do you think? Have you ever had someone try to sabotage your success? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might inspire someone who needs to hear it today. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories of betrayal, justice, and triumph. Because everyone deserves to know that hard work and integrity still win in the end.